of them that I didn't get.
That's fine.
Maybe a little more, 5 or 6 of them. Okay, so the first question is if the, are you recording, Jacob?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just started it.
If the reserve ratio is 8%, then a decrease in reserves of $6,000 can cause the money supply to fall by as much as, and I actually printed it and did it on paper. The answer I got was A, 48,000.
How did you get that?
Because 5% is 1/20th. So you multiply 20 by 500. Oh, I'm on the wrong question. Sorry. Erase what I just said. I could be wrong, but so 8% is 1/8. So I multiply 8 by 6,000, which is 12.5%, which, oh, maybe that's wrong. Now that I look at it. That's how I came up with the answer, but I could be totally wrong now that I thought, because that's 12.5%. We're talking about 8%. So it's going to be, give me 1 second. Did any of you guys do that one?
I know how to do it. I didn't look at this yet, but so for these, it's talking about the reserve ratio. And so I remember, hold on, look at my notes.
8%, then decrease reserves of 6,000 customers.
I got 75, I think.
75,000?
Let me check. I feel like I'm doing it wrong. I got 75,000, but I think I'm doing it wrong. When does the show gonna start? The show can start with the imagination. Around the screen that we have there.
Well, yeah, 75,000. 6,000 is 8% of that. 6,000 is 8% of 75. So that sounds logical.
Okay, I'm not sure how to do that one. So
let's do, I think 75 is correct. Because if you multiply 75,000 by 8%, it's 6,000.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. Question 2. On Ugoland, the money supply is 8 million and reserves are 1 million. Assuming that people hold only deposits and no currency and the banks hold no excess reserve, then the reserve requirement is, let me see if I answered that one, 12.5%. So how I came up with that is 1 million over 8 million equals 12.5%. So you divide 1 over 8.
That's right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, number 3, if the reserve ratio is 5%, then 500 of additional reserves can create up to, that's the one I was reading earlier, is 10,000. The way I came up with that is 1/20th is 5%. So you multiply 20 by 500, you get 10,000. Does that sound right?
Sounds good to me.
I'm just looking at it just to kind of see what
Yeah, I don't blame you. You should never trust me.
It's not personal.
I know, I'm not. I know, I get that. Well, I just read in the book that 1/4 is 25%, 1/10 is 10%, 1/20th is 5%, which makes sense, right? So when you multiply 20 by the 500, it equals 10,000, which is 5%.
Okay, I mean that makes sense.
Okay, if you guys come up with anything else, let me know. Okay, this next one I know I did not do because I don't remember doing it. Nope, did not do that one. So it's the really long one. The monetary policy of Tazi is controlled by the country's central bank known as the Bank of Tazi. The local unit of currency is Taz. The Taz. Aggregate banking statistics show that collectively, the banks of Tazi hold 300 million Tazes of required reserves, 75 million Tazes of excess reserve, have issued 7,500 million Tazes of deposits, and hold 225 million Tazes of Tazian treasury bonds. Oh my. Tazians prefer to only use demand deposits, so all money is on deposit at the bank. Suppose the Bank of Tazi loaned the Bank of Tazi 10 million Tazes. Suppose also that both the reserve requirements and the percentage of deposits held as excess reserve stay the same. By how much would the money supply? Oh my gosh. This is probably why I didn't do this one.
Okay, well, I mean, here's what it is saying. It's saying that there's no cash. It's everything's in the bank.
Okay.
So we know that.
So it says that the reserve requirements and the percentage of deposits held as excess reserve stay the same. So that would be whole 300 million Tazes. So it's 300 million and then 75 million of excess reserves. So they're holding 300 million. Do you subtract the 75 million? Oh no, you add it, so it's 375 million. Ugh. No idea. No idea on that one. Let me go see the book.
This one's hard. So, I mean, what's happening? There's a formula that you use for this. I forgot exactly what it is, but it's like a ratio that you can use to solve this pretty easily.
Yeah. Is it in the book?
Yeah, I can go and find it really quick.
Oh, I just opened up the book, so let me see if I can figure it out.
It's somewhere near the middle, if I remember right. Because there's only this one formula in this chapter. It's a ratio that they use.
Hmm.
Well, a project like this is so vast in scope that it will take the cooperation of many people to make it a reality. Exciting job.
Is it the T? No, huh? Wouldn't be. Huh?
Maybe. Let me try to. Where are you finding it? Which section?
I'm in section 16.3A.
3A. Okay, let me see. No, hold on.
No, that doesn't seem right. Let me look at the Federal Reserve, the Monetary Central Bank.
From his hospital bed, Walt implored his brother Roy to complete all projects underway, especially his vision for Florida.
Okay, hold on. It's the question.
Well, my greatest reward, I think, is
So I think I found it. It is in 16.3C.
3C?
Yeah. And so it shows like an example. It says, so like it has like a chart and it says
The original deposit, all that?
and then you have the first national ending, and basically at the end it says total money supply equals this. So like there was a problem like this in the homework. Have you guys done the homework yet?
No.
Okay. There was a problem like that in the homework that I did. I'm just trying to remember exactly how to do it.
Well, if this is what we have to use, we just have to break down the numbers. And then the percentage. This problem doesn't even give us a percentage, so how do we?
So there's like a head bank called the Bank of Tazi, and that bank, what it did is it loaned out 10 million Tazis, or the 10 million of the currency, to like the other banks in the country. So it's supposed also that both the reserve requirement and the percentage of deposits held as excess reserves stay the same.
Their whole vitality and everything was great. Now I walked into the park. The music it came up on midnight clear, and the tour guides were in tears. I can remember it like just yesterday. It was so eerily sad.
I don't know. This one's kind of crazy. I don't really know how to do it. I'm like looking at it and I just don't know how to do this.
Well, I think it's 200 million.
You think so?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm gonna just guess 200 because I have to figure out how to do that. All right, question 5. Which list ranks assets from the most to least liquid? So that's gonna be B, currency, stocks, fine arts. Oh, wait, which list ranks assets from the most to least? Oh yeah, most to least, which would be currency, stocks, and fine arts.
Wouldn't fine art be more like less
No.
good than stocks? I feel like it's
But the most liquid is money.
so liquid is how easy like something can be converted into money.
Yeah.
And so I feel like selling a piece of fine art is gonna like be harder to sell than a stock.
Well, you know what? I can find in the book, I read about that.
He was trying to leave us with a vision for the future.
So give me a second. We can go over it together. I understood that currency, which is money, is the most liquid.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you there.
Oh, so am I misunderstanding the question?
No, I just think what I'm saying is I think fine stocks are more liquid than fine art.
You mean stocks are more liquid than fine art?
Yeah.
That's why I said B, currency, stocks, and fine art.
I thought you said A.
No, B.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then
Okay, we're on the same page now. Okay, good.
all right.
Okay, a bank has 8,000 in deposits and 6,000 in loans. It has loaned out all of it can given all. It has loaned out all it can given the reserve requirements. That makes sense. It follows the reserve requirement. If it follows the reserve requirement is, why isn't this not making sense to me? But I
Cool.
put 75%. How did I come up with that?
Well, it would be, I think it would be 25% because it's the reserve requirement for this bank would have to be 25% because it's saying it's loaned out all it can and it's loaned out $6,000 out of $8,000. So that means it's loaned out 75%, which means the reserve requirement would have to be the other 25% that it's holding. So
That's true. So I just did the opposite.
no, you're fine.
Okay.
That's why we do it as a group.
Yes, Jacob's not saying anything.
I'm just thinking.
Okay, which of the following is not included in M1? That is savings deposit.
Which one? Sorry. Oh, which one did you say?
Savings deposit. That I actually read and looked it up. Savings deposit is not included in M1. It's included in M2.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Question 8. Which of the following can banks use to borrow from Federal Reserve? Oh, I didn't do that one. Which of the following banks use to borrow from the Federal Reserve? The discount window or the term auction facility? The discount window, but not the term auction facility. The term auction facility, but not the discount window. Banks cannot borrow from the Federal Reserve, only the government can. That's not true. So it's going to be A, B, or C. Sal, can you lower that, please?
I'm pretty sure it's gonna be B, but I want to like be sure.
Okay.
Because it does talk about the discount window, but I don't know what the term auction facility is.
Let's see.
So it's talking about the Federal Reserve loaning to banks. Okay, so in the book it says traditionally banks borrow from the Fed's discount window and pay an interest rate on that loan called the discount rate.
So they do borrow from the discount window.
Yeah, they borrow from the Fed's discount window.
Okay.
What's the other word?
Auction facility. So do they borrow also from the auction facility or not?
I think they do.
They do. It says
Yeah.
here, at times the Fed has set up other mechanisms for banks to borrow from it. For example, from 2007 to 2010, under the term auction facility, the Fed set up a quantity of funds it wanted to lend to banks.
Okay, so then the answer would be
Yeah. Okay, cool.
A. Okay. Savings deposits are included in
M2, but not M1.
M2, but not in 1. I agree. When the Fed conducts open market purchases, oh, shoot, I didn't do that one either.
That was the same page.
That was the same page that you were reading right now? That Michael was reading?
Yeah, just at the top, yeah.
So what's the answer? When the Fed conducts open market purchases, it buys treasury securities, which increases money supply. It buys treasury security, which decreases the money supply. It borrows money from member banks, which increases money supply. It lends money to member banks, which decreases the money supply.
To buy bonds.
Huh?
Just a second.
I'm pretty sure it's A.
A?
Because when they buy the treasury securities, they're putting more money into the economy, or into the money supply. Because then when they sell them, when they're selling them, they're getting money, and so they're decreasing the money supply. So when they sell them, when they buy them, they're giving out money, or like increasing the money supply.
Okay, I will trust you on that.
Okay.
I have no clue. Economists call an institution designed to oversee the banking system and regulate the quantity of money in the economy.
I'm pretty sure it's a central bank.
The central bank, that is correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Fed's control of the money supply is not precise because
D.
it is.
Pretty sure.
Wait, what did you say?
D.
The amount of money in the economy depends in part on the behavior of depositors and bankers.
Because in the book, it does talk about how one of the problems with the Fed controlling the money supply is they can't control how much excess reserves banks hold, and they can't control how much people hold, like how much excess money people hold rather than deposit.
Okay. Which of the following is a store of value?
It sets the mood for the audience. It says, this is what this adventure is going to be about. It's going to be scary. It's going to be funny. It's so seamlessly done that you can't wait.
Let me see. Did I answer that one? I'm looking for it here.
I think it's just cash, but I'm gonna.
Yeah, cash and stocks.
It's stocks too.
Yep. I read that. It's the, and I'll tell you where it's at so you feel comfortable with my answer.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Animation requires a certain amount of action and analyzing action and trying to get as much personality as you can into the characters. We always had a saying that
Oh, I found it. It said a person can also transfer purchasing power from the present to the future by holding non-monetary assets such as stocks and bonds.
All right. We're good?
Yeah.
14, the federal funds rate is the interest rate that
A lot of those special effects and attractions are based on production systems. Things that it's rudimentary.
So the banks charge one another for loans.
Yeah.
Very old school, vaudeville,
Okay.
all kinds of cool stuff that,
Yes, it's A. 15, during a bank run, depositors decide to hold more currency relative to deposits, and banks decide to hold more excess reserve relative to deposit. I don't think I answered that one. I don't remember that.
physicians don't like to reveal their secrets.
Let's see, during,
Called Pepper's Ghost. And Pepper's Ghost illusion has been around for at least 150 years.
yeah, I didn't answer that one. Mm. Let's see.
Master this effect beautifully. Imagineers created this 90-long film ball with multiple effects and set pieces.
So,
Guests travel on an elevated pathway and look through
both the decision to hold relatively more currency and the decision to hold relatively more excess reserve.
I'm pretty sure it's B.
Make money apply. Right, yeah, B. I agree. On a Banks T, that's the question.
For the disembodied head of the gypsy fortune teller, no greasy chilies.
Why can't I find them on my paper here? The question on the bank. Oh, I put on the Banks T account, which are part of the bank's assets. It's C, reserves but not deposits made by its customer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the answer that I got.
That's right. I just looked it up in the book too.
Okay. The existence of money, it makes trade easier. That's the answer I found in the book. You guys okay with that?
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. I did not understand this question, so I skipped it. It says consider 5 individuals with different occupations, and then you have them there. In a barter system, which of the following pairs has a double coincidence of wants? It's either Alan and Eric or Deidre and Kelvin. I don't
Well,
know.
Alan and Eric. Eric barbecues ribs, and Alan wants ribs.
Is that what it means, the barter system?
So the barter system is trading like a good or service. Like a double coincidence of wants is basically when each like person like they each want something and they can each provide something like instantly for one another. So in the book, it gives an example of like if you go to get a haircut, you'll like give them like food or something. Like it's not money. It's just one thing that's something needs.
But
But
Calvin and Deidre, Calvin wants bread and the other one bakes bread. Is the answer the two answers are correct?
I don't know because the problem is, I mean, that works one way, but what's Calvin gonna do for Deidre, right? Or what's Alan going to do for Eric? So that's why I'm getting a little confused. So it's either C or D, but a double coincidence of wants is saying that both parties are going to be able to benefit. And in those two examples, it looks like just one party is going to benefit.
None.
Yeah, because I mean, so the definition is the unlikely occurrence that two people each have a good or service that the other wants. So they don't have something that the other person wants. It works one way,
So
but it
it's
doesn't
none
work
of
both
the
ways.
above are correct.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I kind of feel that one. When colonists in Virginia used tobacco as money, their money was commodity money. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Because commodity money is like, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's right. I don't want to explain it. It's just right.
No, yeah. And the last one, all Fed purchases and sales of, let's see. Oh, I didn't answer that one. Yay. All Fed purchases and sales of corporate stocks and bonds are conducted at the New York. I could not find that in the book. Did you recall reading anything about New York? I don't remember reading anything on New York. Government bonds are conducted at the New York Fed trading desk. Real estate and other real assets are conducted by the Federal Open Market Committee. All of the above are correct. That one, I couldn't find the answer to that.
Let me look real quick.
On the book, it says to increase the money supply, the Fed instructs its bond traders at the New York Fed to buy bonds from the public nation's bond markets. Answer the question. Does that mean B?
Read it again.
Just below where it says open market operations, where we were reading, where it says to increase the money supply, the Fed instructs its bond traders at the New York bonds from the public in the nation's bond markets.
Where is that at in the book? I'm sorry.
16.4a.
Oh, okay.
It was a very challenging project. Walt intended to develop the property as a city of the future, not only as a showcase, but also a workplace. He dreamt of a functional human infrastructure. Over the years, it's certainly leaked out. There is this underground city, and I wonder what's down there. What do they do there? Whether they be
Government bonds with the Fed.
Is it true? And if so, I'd love to see it.
B? Would it be B?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
On any given day, coming and going, there's probably 10 to 15,000 customers.
All right, who's submitting it first this week?
This was what all we did
I did it last time, just as a reminder.
All
I'll
right,
do it
Jacob,
real
you
quick.
want to do it, or I can do it. It's up to you.
No, I'll do it. I'm doing it. Let's see. Oh, sweet. 19 out of 20.
Nice.
The one I got wrong. Oh, was the one I accidentally misclicked. So you guys will get 20 out of 20.
Which one was it? Just so I can double check.
The Tazzy one. You guys guessed 200 million. I accidentally pressed 250.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
All right. I'm double checking, make sure I answered all the questions.
Yep, 20 out of 20. Perfect score.
Perfect.
We are pretty awesome, aren't
Good
we?
job, guys. I didn't know we had it in us, but
I think this is the first time we get this high score, right? It wasn't that hard of a chapter.
pays off when you read, I guess. Would have guessed, but
Yeah, but I would have gotten a couple wrong because that I had put that 75,000 one. I think I had put 48. I did the math wrong.